I'm all about empowering these women, uplifting them. And it's not even just women, sometimes men come into my class. It's for all genders, all sizes, all levels. It doesn't matter if you are professional, advanced, beginner, 2 left feet, 300 pounds, 100 pounds. That's the beauty of Strut Don't Stress. It's so the range of the dancers, it's beautiful. And it's a community of people that support one another. And it's just our escape to feel, validated, to feel.
You're listening to On The Go Voice Podcast, the best generational podcast you'll ever tune into. Listen to the voices of this generation, where we seek to identify values, stimulate discussions, and vocalize the community. Hey guys, welcome to On The Go Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Sabiaga. And today we actually aren't going to be doing anything with this month. It's a Black History Month. And I actually wanted to take the time to commemorate that just because of everything that's happened, but also taking the time to use this episode to celebrate the people that has been in the past. And for me personally, I've always really hated history. Like, if I remember back in high school, I just hated it. I would fall asleep. And it wasn't something that I was really interested in. But over time, as I began to study what history was about, but also to understand, I also started to understand it was really interesting for me because I understood how people became where they were at. And so the more I recognize the greatness and the legends, the people that have come across in our lives today that we celebrate, I start to kind of look into that and reflect now, wow, this is the impact that they've created within this community or just in life in general. So with that being said, I have a very special guest today, and she is going to be joining me celebrate that, but I'm also going to be interviewing her to talk about her business. So with that being said, I want to introduce you guys to none other than Melissa Mocha Mckenzie, aka Mocha as you know her, owner of the Strut Don't Stress, and that's a really interesting. So say hi to everybody, Mocha.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here.
I know. It's been actually way overdue because we try to do this, and with just everything that's going on, it's been kind of it's a push.
Right.
But the funny thing was, we were able to talk with your friend Alyssa, right? And
yeah.
Then she was on the phone and you were talking about her.
The
and
universe brought us together.
That's why I was like, maybe I should have her on. Let me find some way,
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah, so now I'm glad she's here. For anybody listening, let's introduce a little background about you, just so for anybody know who you are.
So yeah, my real name is Melissa Mckenzie, but everybody calls me Mocha. I did grow up in Ventura County, born and raised here in Oxnard. Dance is my entire life. That's what most people know me as. I started dancing when I was 10 years old, and it just grew as a passion as I entered high school. I was offered the opportunity to start teaching when I was just 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So from there, it just blossomed, and I just traveled throughout Ventura County teaching at different studios and after school programs. And it just became my entire life. And I grew up in a household that was of college graduates. My parents both graduated college, so they really pushed that and instilled that in us. And I started taking college classes early, before I even graduated high school, and transferred to UCLA. That was my dream school.
Right.
And danced there, which led me to move to Los Angeles and start pursuing dance professionally out there. And that's kind of where I'm at, but still traveling back and forth to Ventura County, of course.
Right. And how long have you been running Strut Don't Stress, your company?
So Strut Don't Stress blossomed about almost 8 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, it's so new.
Okay, we're gonna dive into that.
Oh my god.
Okay, so with that being said, thanks for being on. I know you're busy. You got your boyfriend's birthday today as well.
Happy
So
birthday, baby.
so we're gonna have her on now. And with that being said, I know a couple of weeks ago it was very unfortunate with what just happened, and we're not going to dive into it as much. However, I just wanted to take the time to commemorate and also celebrate, what's happened with for instance, the helicopter crash, it was just such a tragic event. But I wanted to take this time to essentially acknowledge and celebrate the life of Kobe Bryant, but also, give condolences to people that were affected by that, because I realized I want to use this platform to celebrate and thanks to that. And with that being said, February is a Black History Month, and someone who's Filipino, who's come across like the American culture, grew up in here, cultivated, I noticed that we're Asian and we celebrate our own culture, but we don't really take the time to actually acknowledge and appreciate the history of the past. And for a lot of Filipinos, or just Asians in general, we celebrate a lot of the things that Black culture has actually created. With that being said, so I'm very grateful that you came over here to be a representative that also helped me celebrate Black History Month. So I'm actually curious, who are some of the people that you look up to within for this month?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was definitely a huge Kobe fan. Growing up, my entire family, if you walked into our household, it was like Kobe Bryant shrines everywhere.
Love
just
it.
like his jerseys hung up. We were fortunate to meet him a few times, so we were deeply affected from that, and still are. So that's definitely an icon that I watched growing up. Laker games were a normal thing for us. We would go spontaneously all the time to see him. So yeah, that like I said, affected me. Black History Month means so much to me. I love that we get a month to celebrate. I still always am like, why is it the shortest month? But I'm thankful we have a month. So proud to be Black and to represent Black women, just doing my thing. I always hold that closely to my heart. And every inch of my soul, every vein in my body loves Beyonce. That's like my icon of all icons. I've looked up to her since I was a little girl. And what I love about her too is that she makes music and is so bold and proud as a Black woman. She talks a lot about like how we look and to be proud of it, because it's not always celebrated. And so that's what really I felt like, everybody kind of loves Beyonce. She's beautiful, she's talented, but she gave meaning to what she was doing. I feel like her music and her dancers, everything, it's just like there's statements. There's a lot of history in it. And I study that and I watch that closely, and it inspires me to, follow my path with purpose for my people, for my culture.
For sure. And this is where it's brought you now. And I love it too, because her partner Jay-Z too is also a very inspiring figure in what he's done for the music industry. And like Beyonce, I know for a lot of women who I've talked to, they look up to her for her divine feminine energy and what she just represents. And I love that you brought that out and how that she inspires you as well. It's just some of the people that we can look up to. For me, I think when I mentioned this idea to you, the first person that came up to me was Tupac, definitely.
Oh, I love Tupac. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe like the younger generation won't remember him as much, but like
I feel like he's gonna live on forever.
Oh yeah, true.
I can't believe all that he accomplished in just 26. He was 26 when he passed. That's insane. Still to leave a mark on, and that's what I said. Same thing about Kobe. I'm like, wow, like. Just taken way too early, but to see the massive impact they had on the world is just makes you want to go so harder. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I leaving behind? What legacy am I going to leave behind? So
and it's very interesting and also very like heartwarming in a way when I saw everybody come together. Man, it was just like, dude, it was hard.
Like, even non-basketball fans were like, "Yo, I'm hurt."
Just so you know, I wasn't basketball. But the reason why I looked up to him was because of his greatness and what he represented and who he inspired. So like people like him, Michael Jordan, people who have left greatness, even though they were not what they did wasn't something that I really look up to. I just looked up to how they brought out, or the figure that it represented, and I thought about that. That's very powerful.
Mamba mentality.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad to have that celebrated. And what are some of the people who else you might be looking to? I'm curious.
If we were like to go back in history and pay that due to the leaders that paved the way, I've always felt like a part of me was like Malcolm X's daughter. Like I love that Beyonce shouted him out in one of her songs. She said, you know, really? Call me Malcolm X.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I love him because, you know, of course I love MLK Jr., all that he did, but I feel like, you know, the two were so different in their approach. You know, right. Malcolm X was known to be more aggressive in his approach, and I believe in, you know, obviously we want to go the peaceful route, but sometimes, you know, action does need to be taken, and some people are, I feel like, chosen to use their voice for those that don't. Absolutely. You know, I am so passionate about speaking up for people whenever I see someone, you know, being treated, you know, unfairly, or, you know, it's just not right, and it's very hard for me to hold my tongue, and it's a balance of learning, like how, so yeah, he definitely inspired me, and I kind of call myself a little Mocha X, so
I love it.
I'm a little radical, just when it comes to fighting for even my people or anybody who I feel like is, and that's what I preach in my classes too, because so many women come in and tell me, like, you know, I've heard stories of them being in abusive relationships, and that they weren't allowed to feel sexy or be sexy or be themselves or find who they wanted to be, and just felt like their voice was so little. Yeah. And I wanted to bring out that beast inside of them that was just like waiting to come out. And
that's so cool.
I feel like that was, you know, a part of my calling, and yeah, I kind of put that two and two together of like being so proud to be a black woman, being so proud to fight for, you know, our rights. I have unfortunately experienced racism and, you know, been discriminated against. I think we all have our own stories, but I wanted to, you know, turn that around, and it's like, how can I help other people, you know, get out of these situations, or feel like they have a voice, or feel like they matter.
Create that like, not, I wouldn't say voice, but not just voice, but create that outlet for them to speak out for what they truly feel. And that's also how I feel, you know, when I started this podcast, it was a way for me to
I love that you're doing this.
Yeah, it was a way for me to create that inner voice that people have, but they don't have the tools to actually articulate. So that's because I know that I was blessed enough to be able to become more articulate and more, I wouldn't say that in a cocky way, but in a way that I just, something that I became very passionate about. So I totally agree with you on that. And actually, I think I remember I actually did the essay with Malcolm X.
Really?
On that.
You remember what you wrote?
Gosh, I know it was something with activism, but it was so bad. I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting because I know a lot of the movements he created, like the Black Panther was part of it as well, and I remember I wrote about that. But gosh, I just knew I ended it off on a note of something about how he changed the world, and you know, like, I think what the perception within the African American Black people perceived nowadays in social media has grown tremendously, and like they're very big on the impact on social media, right? Like, especially
I always say, like, comedy. We're the trendsetters. I'm sorry, but I'm like,
not gonna lie,
you guys have to know like where this culture came from, where it started. But no, that's a good point. I feel like social media just has spotlighted you know, growing up, and it's funny that you said, I didn't really like history in school. And I taught, when I first started teaching, you know, I was in the K through 12 education system, so I had to follow strict curriculums to teach the students. You know, they're being monitored, the lesson plans, all of that. You know, that's what I studied at UCLA. I was in their education program, and sometimes it grew frustrating because I felt like what we're feeding these people and these kids is a false reality. Yeah, it's like one version of history, but there's so much more. And that was what kind of got me frustrated growing up in school. It was like we were always shown as being oppressed. It was always, you know, the slavery, and that's what I remember about the history of our people. And, you know, once I went off to college or got to take classes that celebrated, you know, I took African American history. I was so excited to like choose what I could take, and being a part of like the Black Student Union, or like it's so funny because Twitter is like, I swear Twitter is a university. Like, I follow so many young activists, so they talk about their experiences, and I'm like, we need to be shown in a light that's we're young entrepreneurs, we're starting our own businesses, we're trendsetters, we're doing all these great things, and we're not just oppressed, or we're not just you know, I think times are changing, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
For sure.
So
definitely. I mean, there's still, like, I always say this. I think social media, it's never in a way now given a reason to just kind of like show themselves getting, spewed racism or all kinds of stereotypes. It's only revealed it. It's always been there. Right. It's always been there.
My parents say that all the time.
Yeah, it's always been there. But the reason now that we kind of, in a way, as people, got the power back because we are able to put out what we feel is there. And sure, there might be some that I think, that could be kind of like rationalized or thought about. Maybe, hey, it's not the right way to go about it. But I think for the most part, the things that we see today, like some of the things that happened in the past with corruption and involving Black and young African Americans, unfortunately, have always been there. It's just that we didn't have the tools to actually capture that. So I always look at that. I'm just like, that's really interesting. And, as much as I want to be able to do more about it, it's just something that I, become aware of and, raise my morals and understand and be able to teach other people as well.
Nice, good.
So, but with that being said, you're absolutely right. It's just something that now that social media has grown back, and a lot of the times I'm on like TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah.
Last night I was watching this guy who imitated, he pronounced the names of I don't know, like Pokemon. I don't know why it was someone suggested me, because I was watching some Pokemon videos, how he pronounced a name very incorrectly on purpose. It was just funny as hell. But
you can get like warped into like watching videos and you're like, how did I start?
So
Where did I get? How did I get here?
It's so funny. So entertaining. Yeah, it is very entertaining. And with that being said, there's also a couple other people, and I noticed that most of the Black people that I look up to were definitely artists, like people who were creative, and I feel like that sense has allowed a lot of individuals to see what they could do, and inspired people, and that's something that we don't often look at, and that's something I'm glad that we should have this month. It's something that, or maybe even all year.
Right. For me it is all year. I'm always celebrating my people. I'm like, I love Issa Rae. When she was interviewed, she was like, who are you? Issa Rae. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Insecure. That's what she's most known for.
Okay.
She's the lead actress. She's incredible, her story. But she was on the red carpet and they interviewed her and they were like, who are you voting for, or who are you rooting for tonight? And she was like, I'm rooting for everyone Black. And the interviewer was laughing, like kind of like, but she said it with a straight tone, straight voice, and was dead serious. And I'm like, that needs to be said and that needs to be heard. I feel like it is depicted a lot that we're fighting within our own country or our culture, and it needs to be said out loud that I am rooting for my people. I love my people, and that doesn't take anything away from other cultures. I think that's a common misconception when you do loudly express that I love being Black, I'm proud to be Black, I'm doing it for my people. It doesn't mean I'm not doing it for other people too, but it's like, we need to hear this, young little boys, little girls, they need to hear this when there's so much shown on the media or in social media that's like negativity and just the killings and the police brutality. It's like exhausting. We need to have leaders uplifting and speaking out loud on these things.
Absolutely, because there is a lot of, like, we could point out all the reasons why the world is wrong, and I love it. But also, you're right, we need to spotlight the people that are actually talking about it to create that perception that, hey, that may be the truth. That's where it's at. However, that's not just what it is. There's also people who are doing something about it, and I want you involved. And I love that you're mentioning that as well. And I'm all about that too. Because like I think there is corruption world involved. There are horrible people. There are people that operate from values that are just completely corrupted. However, there's also people who can create possibilities, who have changes. That's why we constantly change as humans. We're so complex that we can't just say we're a simple human being who act on this. Right. And that's what makes us so interesting. And I love that. You're such an inspirational figure. I'm glad I had you on here now, So and we haven't even got to your interview yet, because I'm excited to dive into your brain to see what you're all about. But Anybody else that you want to mention? Because like I said, most of mine are artists. I got
like I'm gonna be so mad when I leave because all of these people are gonna come to mind. It's like when you're gonna argument with someone and you're gonna come back a week later and you're like, dang, I should have said that. But I did want to elaborate a little bit more on Issa Rae because
that's right.
Her story is inspiring because I didn't know who she was until Insecure came on HBO, and when the first season hit, it was so popular. Everybody was talking about it. But a lot of her fans, again, I learned these things from Twitter, talked about how she started on YouTube and she was doing her shows on YouTube. It's just, I feel like it's so relatable for us, like that are maybe starting our own podcast or we're starting our dance class. And we're just, it's a small little thing to us, but you know, you never know who's watching. And to get picked up or her own show on HBO, she talked a lot about, I feel like I agree with this, what she said. Young artists, they look to the top to reach from as far as connections and networking. They want to go to the people that are way up here. And she said, we really need to be looking at the people around us, next to us, collaborating, just how we are doing today. Exactly. Reaching out to people that are doing what you're doing, that are accessible. And
she said that?
And she worded it way better than I am. Okay. But, you know, the people from the top are going to start looking at you and you're kind of like forming like an army. Oh, you know, that it's going to cause a community. Yeah. I'm so aggressive again. The Malcolm X coming. I mean that with love, an army of love. But yeah, I just really got inspired by that. I'm like, wow, she made it. Yeah. And she did it without having to like assume that I need to like, you know, unfortunately as women, or sleep with this person or do this or do that. Like I can reach out to the people around me, use my friends, use my connections. Like you don't have to dismiss just because they're not there yet, or you know, you never know. You look and value everybody's valuable.
I agree with you because I think I've always come from a compassionate point of view when it comes down to people, and you know, I've also been taught that like, hey, you should, you know, you should value your time, blah blah blah, and all this stuff, which kind of like makes me stay away from people who aren't grinding. But at the same time, it's like, dude, like they have so much potential. You know, if you create enough space for people to find their greatness and to acknowledge and appreciate what they're really good at, right, it might come out, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I think that's kind of what I was able to, fortunate enough to see within the people that I've been working with. You know, I see that like, oh my gosh, they're so much more capable, and there's
so much talent in the 805. Oh my god,
what do you think?
That's why I love these podcasts. I'm like, I had no idea when I see a new episode, or you hear all these. It's just from so many different, you know, departments too. Exactly. Music, dance, like it's just so cool.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have this on. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so excited thinking about it. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave a couple of notes. Okay, well, I think we're gonna skip on to the next one. You know, like I'll just mention now a couple people I look up to. Shout out to like people like Oprah and Michael Jordan. You know, even Kanye West, even though he might be perceived in a kind of weird way, but I think he's put out his greatness in such a way. But even so, like shout out to Anderson .Paak. You know, he's from the 805. Yes. Right, he was out here, and then J. Cole, I definitely look up to him. I love
J. Cole. Oh my gosh,
exactly.
Talk about music with meaning. Jesus,
it's very lyrical, and also very spiritual. We got like Kendrick, not to mention Nipsey. Come on,
how have I not mentioned Nipsey? And
that's why I wrote about this.
So obsessed with being a Leo, and he's a Leo.
He's a Leo.
Yes,
okay. And I'm just learning about like astrology and everything.
And that was sad to me too, that I dove into like his, you know, I knew about Nipsey's music, but his life, like how much he influenced his city, and he was so positive in his community.
I did not know that.
I looked more into that after he died, and that's what frustrated me. I was so sad about that.
I was like, the funny thing was, my friend who, like a lot of my grinder friends, you know, they would talk about him, just like, yeah, I'm gonna look into him. But then when he actually passed, unfortunately, that's when I started looking into it, and I realized, wow, he had so much impact on the community. Yes. He's like collaborated with some of the people I look up to, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
And again, only 33 years old. It's like these people do so much in such a short amount of time. That's what really affected me. I'm like, okay, I gotta go harder. I gotta keep going. Like,
my gosh, thank you.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, because like, there's just so much greatness out there, and okay.
Yeah, that one hurt.
Totally. But on top of that, you know, there's other people too, and I think Jane Aiko, is she right?
I think she's mixed.
Like mixed, right? I know she's
with
mixed.
Your culture, no?
Yeah, she's like half Japanese or something.
I'm not sure. What?
She's like my crush right now.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
She is gorgeous and so talented. Oh my God, her music.
Oh. Did you hear that last music she came out with?
She's so poetic,
Oh my
but
gosh.
in the most like subtle, aggressive way. I love her lyrics. I'm like, did she? I have to rewind it. I'm like, did she just say that?
Yeah, me too. I'm still listening to that last song she put out. So
yeah, I always get requested to choreograph to her.
Oh, you should.
Yeah. I have once.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, man, there's a lot of other people I want to mention, but I want to quickly be able to jump on to you. Okay, we're gonna take a quick little break, but I'm glad that we were able to bring this up, because I just love, like, now that we talk so much greatness out there and being able to acknowledge and appreciate it. It's just a really what's the word I'm looking for? It's just very gratifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always like that. I did want to say one last thing because I posted, the quote about being so proud to be Black and, my skin tone, having a dark skin tone. And I got some messages, like this mom messaged me about her daughter being bullied at school. And it's because, she is Black or she looks different. And she's comes home like crying to her mom about wanting to, look different. And I remember feeling that same way growing up. I used to wish, I grew up in predominantly white areas. So I was always the only Black kid in the class where everybody would turn around if we're talking about that part in history. I experienced that, and it wasn't until I was older that I started being proud of how I looked and started owning it. So I want more young girls to, feel beautiful when they look, more little Black girls that look like me to feel beautiful, more little Black boys to know they are important. Right. And I just feel like that needs to be said.
And
so
I'm glad you brought that out too, because that's what I noticed about what you do too. So we'll jump into that real quick. We'll take a quick little break. All right, guys, welcome back to On the Go Voice podcast. Took a little break. We had a little interesting chat before, but we're going back into making this about Mocha now. Mocha, the entrepreneur, CEO of Strut. Don't stress. Are you ready for this, Mocha?
I'm ready.
Yes, I love it, and I'm actually excited to dive in because she talked about some really interesting points in when we were talking about like other Black figures. But with that being said, Strut Don't Stress, like, how did you come up with that name, by the way?
Everybody asks me that, and I'm like, how do I explain that? It just literally dropped in my lap. Like,
interesting.
I really don't know how it came to my mind. I think I was like coming up with hashtags or like doing my first flyer for my class, and it just popped in my head. I swear, I can't even explain it. I feel like those things are God or the universe, I can't say I came up with it on my own, but yeah, it just happened. And I was like, this, people started telling me like, you need to trademark that slogan. Like, that is so clever and catchy.
It is.
I love it. I'm so glad I stuck with it. So I'm actually in the process of trademarking it.
Okay. So before, because maybe people that don't know exactly what you do, what is Strut Don't Stress? Like, what do you represent as a company?
So Strut Don't Stress is a heels dance brand experience that I started in Ventura County about 6-7 months ago, almost 8 actually. I keep saying 6 months. I feel like it's past that time, but less than a year ago. And people see our videos, our dance videos, and obviously we're dancing in heels, so we get sexy.
Yes.
But until you're inside the classroom, you see that there's so much more going on than the dancing. We start off, I call them inspiring introductions, and we share the goals that we want to accomplish. I'm all about the law of attraction. I've studied and live my life by it, and I want more people to know about it. So we speak what we want into existence. I'm all about empowering these women, uplifting them. And it's not even just women. Sometimes men come into my class. It's for all genders, all sizes, all levels. It doesn't matter if you are professional, advanced, beginner, 2 left feet, 300 pounds, 100 pounds. That's the beauty of Strut Don't Stress. It's so the range of the dancers, it's beautiful, and it's a community of people that support one another. And it's just our escape to feel validated, to feel
like reassurance, maybe in a way.
I'm just all about making them feel like they matter and that they're important and they can feel sexy if they they feel, some of them like have never danced sexy before and they're like, this is so awkward and uncomfortable to me, but that's what that space I created was for.
Okay, is that where it came? Like, I'm actually interested, what brought you to the idea of that? I know you said you shared an experience where you've taught people how to, like, some dancing classes as well, but what made you decide, hey, let's bring out the sexiness in people and then let them express that, right? I'm sorry, I was kind of
no, I love that. No, it's true. Like, I even to myself, I'm like, wow, my career is dancing in heels. Like, I dance sexy for a living. I didn't think that was gonna be me. I didn't think that was gonna be what popped off. It blew up and it blossomed. I'm so grateful for all the support Ventura County has given Strut Don't Stress and shown. But yeah, I grew up dancing hip hop. Like, I'm such a aggressive dancer. I love the the heavy hitters. Like, I'm a kind of a tomboy sometimes. So but what made me fall in love with dancing sexy and in heels again is Beyonce. Like, I went to every single one of her concerts, every single one. Always watch all her backup dancers, know them by name, like wanted to be one of those.
Wow.
And in LA, dancing in the professional industry, you have to keep up with what's hot. And dancing in heels was the thing about, I would say, like, it didn't get popular until about like 5 to 10 years ago. It's still fairly new compared to all the other, classic styles of ballet, jazz, hip hop that we're taught. Dancing in heels is like what is now the thing for women to know to do. When you go to these auditions, they expect you to put on a heel and know how to do it exactly as if you were in a tennis shoe. There's no limits. So I started training because I had to. I'm within an agency, and going out on these auditions, you have to keep up. So I was already teaching for like over 10 years and started training in dancing heels, and I was like, okay, all of this is, in the LA dance world, but in my hometown, I don't feel like they know about this stuff, with what's happening, what's hot now. Like, what would happen if I just did a pop-up heels dance class? It was just an idea. I was like, you know what, I'm going to rent out a studio, and whoever wants to come dance with me will come dance with me. Like, I didn't think of it as a big deal. And when I posted the first class, it sold out. Like, over 60 people were like signing up, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is happening. So I didn't go into Strut Don't Stress saying, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to start a brand, this is going to be a weekly thing, because I knew it was going to be a commitment. I live in Los Angeles. I was going to have to make the commute to Oxnard to hold these weekly classes. So when the community showed that we want this and we love this, and the feedback was so positive, I had no choice but to do this. I said, I love it. Yeah, this is a calling. This is your purpose. This is what you're supposed to do. I just went with it.
That's so awesome. I love how what you mentioned was like, when you started, people didn't know that you didn't know that was a thing, and you just wanted to start it, and then people decided to say, hey, let me take part.
I think that took the pressure off.
People?
Oh my god.
I was like, ah! So with that being said, my thing is like, okay, so obviously there wasn't enough activities for people to understand that maybe they can embrace that inner beauty and quote unquote sexiness in them. What did you feel at that time?
It's crazy because I've been teaching for so long. People like, I feel like they see Strut Don't Stress, and some people that are new to my following my Instagram or seeing my journey, they're like, oh, it's an instant success. It's funny when you kind of like take off and people don't realize that you've been planting seeds. Like, I've been teaching, like I said, in Ventura County since I was 16. But I think just what made Strut Don't Stress what it is, again, I think it's just so much bigger than the dancing. Like, it's these conversations we're having before where they're feeling like, okay, I tell them, you spent your hard-earned money on me. You are going into this dance class. Some people are freaking out. I get DMs like, oh my God, I've never danced in a heel before. Oh my God, being sexy. Like, there's a lot of anxiety in some of these women, these dancers. Like, they just are stepping out into their comfort zone, and I make sure that they feel like they're spending this hour and a half I have with them to the best they can, stop, it's easy to self-sabotage and get in the car and be like,
totally.
I saw
allow
this,
all these perceptions.
I don't look like this, or she dances way better. It's like, I tell them, this is not what you're going to do in this hour and a half. That's not what it's about. You should be proud of yourself that you even stepped through the door and you're not scrolling on Instagram watching us. I'm so thankful for that love and support on social media. But like, once you get into the class, like, you need to be your biggest fan. You need to love yourself. You need to teach people how to treat you. I'm going to be your biggest fan when I see you loving yourself. So that's what we do before we even get up and start dancing. Right. And then you see, like, it's so dope to see dancers the first day versus weeks later.
Just thinking about it.
Oh my God, they go from like, you don't even know who, to Beyonce, and I'm like, carry that outside of the dance.
It's like they're carrying a different out of topic, but like, in a way, this is more than just actual creativity. This is spirituality.
I'm so
understanding
big
a
on that.
bigger part of themselves that they are capable of accessing, but you give them the space to bring that out.
And I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in God, and I respect everybody's religions, everybody's back. Whatever you believe in, if it's the universe, or at the end of the day, I ask before every class that I'm used as a vessel. Whoever walks in my class, somebody might need to hear a certain message that day, that night. So I ask that I'm used as that source to give that to them, because I've taken so many dance classes where I just came, learned some steps, and left, and I was like, what just happened? Like, I don't even remember. It did nothing for me. The dance was fun. It was a cute little
structure, choreography was cool, steps.
But I wasn't moved. And I think that's the difference between a choreographer. You can choreograph, you can put together a dance, versus a teacher or a mentor. Wow. Like, I don't want to belittle my platform. Like, I want to make sure I am living in my purpose, pleasing God or the universe, or just, I want to do it right. I want to do it correctly. I want to be fulfilled, just like we talk about, Kobe. Like, these people left legacies for a reason. He left a mentality, a Mamba mentality. He was great at basketball, but people remember him as a dad, a good dad, a good person. Like, that's what I want to do in my brand, in Strut, Don't Stress. And that's too why I love the name Strut, Don't Stress, because I tell them, don't stress in here. Stop stressing. Just strut.
I love it. It really lives up to its name.
It's a lifestyle.
In a way, and I don't mean to step over the mama mentality. In a way, you're giving off a Mocha mentality.
Mocha mentality.
Yeah, you're allowing people to create that inner self with them, because you're giving. It's not just like teaching them the moves, but it's also seeing them that you are these moves, that you are these movements, and you are Strut, Don't Stress. So that's why you gotta strut it. Stop stressing.
And that's, I think, what I'm learning is the pressure of being a businesswoman is separating your brand and yourself. Because now everywhere I go, I'm thinking, I'm clocked in 24/7. You are representing a brand, you're never off. And that's the pressure I put on myself.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, okay, I have to be an example. I can't preach this. So when I'm in a situation and I tell them, this is what you deserve, or this is what you're worth, or whatever, and I reflect on the things I say, and I'm like, I have to live in that. Am I doing this? Like,
hold yourself
you have to check
right?
yourself, and I do that, and that's kind of where I'm growing and learning. So I'm figuring it out. Like, it's easy to preach these things,
exactly.
but then
again, like, the reason why you could even articulate and express this to any individual is because you see that within yourself, right? So then it's just a matter of, like, during those times when you're actually on those dumpsters, whether it's like financial issues or family issues or just overall, like, I don't know, world issues, it's when you're accessing that inner self within you that person you would become and aspire for others to create is you calling that out. And that's I'm in the same way. Sometimes when I talk about certain things, I preach about certain things, and I question, like, holy shit, am I living the way I'm talking about? I want to make sure, and it has to be aligned. And the more you just clarify, the more you voice that out, it just becomes more powerful and clarified to the point where, oh shit, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And exactly, I love that about you.
Thank you.
And with that being said, I know you mentioned you would go through some certain problems with your life, but like with this business, what are some of the struggles that you come across?
I knew that was going to be a question. And it's hard because, my life is public. Obviously, with having a brand that's on social media, you have to put everything on Instagram if that's where your platform, that's where your clientele is. But I'm also I'm an introverted extrovert, if that's a thing.
I think it's a word for ambivert.
Is that what it's called?
It's a middle ground.
Ambivert? Oh my God, I've never heard of that word. Should I know that? Okay, well, I'm definitely going to start saying that. So it's hard for me to talk about my problems that I experience out loud because I just get into my head and I overanalyze and I'm like, oh my God, business-wise, it's not the right thing to do to talk about. I'm human, and it hurts when I go through these, roadblocks, and I take things personal.
Right.
And I'm so thankful for, I do have business mentors around me, like my dad.
That's good.
He's a business owner and very, very, very intelligent. And I go to him for advice, and it's hard to hear that you have to take your personal feelings out of it. Sometimes you have to think just solely on the business.
It's true.
And I'm like, I'm so emotional. So just kind of keeping up, with this industry, it is very competitive. Our artistry is our baby. We hold it so sacred to us. So if we see anybody, judging it or even taking it and using your own creativity, I've come across these things, and it's hard where I feel damn, how am I ever going to keep moving forward, keep reinventing myself? You're in, the only competition is yourself, and that's so hard
very
on myself.
Cliche, as cliche that sounds, I preach that all the time. The only competition is yourself. No one can match up to your uniqueness, but sometimes it's true.
It feels like
when it comes down to creativity, it's dude, how do I go outside the box?
Right.
How could I be my best authentic self?
Right.
And maybe I can share a little bit of something that's been working for me on your end, especially when it comes down to. But then again, I don't have experience in the dance industry, so it might not be as applicable.
It goes across the board.
Right. My thing is I think the more I align myself with the fact that I am me and no one else can be me, is that I understand that inner creativity, that I have the power granted to be able to create any types of possibility with content or whatever it is, business idea I might have, even though someone might have a similar structure, idea, or formula to it, and they figure out my, I don't know, PDF or something I made together, right? But they can never take away the me, because they may be able to take away a current idea, but it's never going to be sustainable, because I'm always going to be reinventing myself. So then I come down to thinking, okay, as long as I'm working myself and embracing the power in me and the creativity and the individuality in me, I'm always going to be different. I'm always going to be reinventing. The person you saw yesterday was going to be different from the next day.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's what's kind of helped me.
The greatest power is that you are you and no one else is you. Yes.
Yeah. And as cliche that sounds, it's true though. Because think about it.
I have to remember that. Running a business, a new business, and figuring all this stuff out, and you're going to come across competition. You're going to come across these roadblocks or people, as a woman and too younger in what I'm doing. Sometimes people don't take you as seriously.
It's true.
They think it's just a little dance.
Wait, how old are you? I'm asking.
29.
29?
Yeah.
You're very young. Yeah, I guess. But
I consider myself, even if I was 49, I'd be like, I'm young. Because to me, it's your spirit.
Exactly.
My spirit is always young.
Yes.
But I'm saying, I feel like for 29, to me, to run your own business, I just didn't see myself here. I didn't think at 29 I would be having my own business. That was something I always spoke into existence or put on your vision board. And I'm like, oh wow, you're doing it. You're doing these things that you said you would do. I just, sometimes you're like, oh, maybe when I'm 35 or 40 and married and have kids, then I'll start doing this kind of stuff. But I'm like, no, the time is now. Your calling is now. Everybody has their window, so it's happening now. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. It's kind of like having your first baby. You're not gonna be ready until your baby's there, and you're like, I gotta figure this out. You're not gonna learn how to do it until you just do it. Exactly. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just some of these things are so new, and I'm figuring it out, and it's me by myself. You don't really know if you're doing it right.
Exactly.
You just do it.
Trust me, I go. That's the kind of creative block I was thinking about the other day too. Like, a couple weeks ago when I started that cipher, I was like, what am I really doing? I was like, wait a minute.
Do you question yourself? Like, is this the right way to do it?
Yeah, but then like I think about no one in this area has done certain things that I've been doing. And I was like, hold on a minute, that's something to appreciate.
You're paving the way.
Then you have to kind of like identify with that and like I said, not just reinvent yourself, but also identify that you're this new person that's creating this path. Like you said, you're paving the way. You're the leader.
There's people watching you. You would be surprised who's watching.
And it's amazing. Like, it's just like, oh my God, it's too much to talk about. But
it's really crazy.
I'm so glad you're talking about it. But other than that, I mean, also you mentioned, like you have personal problems. It's also nice to have people to talk about.
Oh my God.
Like your dad, that's super dope. Like my parents are not entrepreneurial, so luckily I know how to communicate my feelings. I know exactly what I feel. So then if I feel a certain way, I would talk about it to someone who can understand that feeling. If it's a business, I'll talk to someone who can understand the business, and I understand like how to distinguish the emotions. So then I allow myself to kind of like let loose on that person, and if they allow me to,
right?
Because some people don't know what to do with this emotion. You bring out like a business, they're just like, yeah, you'll be okay, Mocha. You'll be okay, Charles.
Like,
I'm like,
pat on the back, keep it moving.
That doesn't help. Like, okay, so then I had to like understand who I reach out to, understanding the people that you're looking for is gonna be there, but like you also have to understand how you might feel, and that comes with like accountability, just like reflecting, like how do I really feel, and who in turn can make me feel better about that situation, whether it's business, whether it's like relationships, whether it's something about your body, how do you feel. It's just something.
Are you familiar with Gary Vee?
Oh yeah, I watch him every day.
He posted the other day, I didn't learn shit during the wins. I learned everything during the losses. And we read these things, but until I felt like when Strut Don't Stress started, it was a blessing because it was just win. Like the first 6 months, I was like, yo, is this really how it is? Like, is it just, I don't want to say easy because of course it was hard work, but it was just, everything was so good for a long amount of time. And then I felt like 2020 hit. Shit got real like fast, and I was like, whoa, wait, what's happening? Like, I just had these roadblocks that I wasn't experiencing. I feel like it's usually the opposite when you're starting off a business. You're gonna for me, for sure. It was all like, it was the honeymoon phase for me. And I feel like now the universe or God is showing me, like, sometimes, how you said, I have to go to these people to reach out and ask, I'm feeling this type of way, can you help me, or can you go? Sometimes you are singled out, or you have to be alone to figure out you have to go through the fire alone. And that's the lessons you're gonna learn. Nobody can teach you, nobody can give you the advice or talk your way. Like, you just literally have to learn the lesson on your own in order to get to the next level. I feel like I'm kind of in that season where it's like I'm having to figure these things out on my own, as much as I want to lean on other people, or like, it's like you're gonna get so much stronger when you just trial and error. Like, you're gonna have to mess up, you're gonna have to fall, but when you get back up and you go to that next level, like, nobody can touch you, nobody can say you already went through it and you got through it on your own. Yeah, exactly. I totally. Sometimes you go through shit that's like, who do I reach out to, or how do I go about this thing, and then you realize that you have the answer within you all along. That's where you create that sustainability within yourself, that character development, that growth, where sometimes it seems easier to just reach out to somebody just because but then really you had the answers all along, and the more you just clarify with that, you create this individual that no one can take away from you, just because you create this thing. Like I said, you learn while you're fucking eating up shit. Why are you eating shit? Why are you losing? And sometimes we just have to accept that, hey, this is a life lesson for me to be taught about. And as you become more, I would say, even acknowledging it and just appreciating it, I guess the more you learn about yourself, right? I love it. Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about your hard problems at the time being. What has been some of the best things that you've experienced? I feel like, of course, number one, I have to say Strut Don't Stress is my biggest blessing. I just really didn't see myself being here at this point in my life, owning my own business, owning my own brand, and building, to be able to like have this platform to reach out to young women, young men, and dancers that tell me like they're really affected deeply from these classes. It's not just dance. Like, that's awesome. I just, there's nothing that can compare to that feeling to know like you're touching people internally. You're changing their lives. I hear that a lot, and I don't think it hits the core. Like, it, you can book your dream job and all that, but like until you're doing it for the people, it doesn't affect you in that way. Like, it just, the reward is so great. So that's probably my biggest win. And of course, what I wanted to do for Ventura County is bring a taste of LA to Ventura County. That's one of the things when I started Strut on Struts, I'm like, I have access of, my LA connections. Like, how could I give these dancers this experience of the dance industry, the entertainment industry? So what I started to do is like the choreographers out there that are big, and it's cool because, social media influencers that you see only on Instagram, you look up to. I'm like, these are real people. We see them. I also have a part-time job in Beverly Hills, so I see celebrities like literally every day, and it's like not that big of a deal once you're out there and you live out there. But to give these other people an opportunity that might not ever see them unless it's through a screen, and get to talk to them and like pick their brain. So I got to bring out Samantha Long. Shout out to her. She came out as my first LA guest choreographer, and the class sold out. Okay. The dancers were so inspired. They got to do a question and answer after class. That was so cool. So I'm going to continue doing those kind of things. Those to me are big wins, getting to like give these people access to like be inspired by people bigger than they even ever imagined coming across.
I love it because like I said, I think growing up here in the 805 area as well, I wouldn't say limited. There definitely is a lot of talent.
Oh my gosh,
there's just so much talent out here.
I literally want to be like, can you come to LA please? Right. But they're doing it out here too. It's so dope.
But what I'm saying is also it can also feel very limited in here because it becomes comfortable.
Yeah, you're like a shark in a fish tank.
Yeah, so then like you being able to bring that new environment in here, that's what I felt when I came back from Long Beach. I was like, holy crap!
I didn't know you were in Long Beach.
I was out there for 2 years. I went to school.
There's a big dance community in Long Beach.
Orange County alone.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, But just overall, like business wise, I learned so much from different people out there. It's the way they operate business and the way they think. And even like slangs, I was like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. And you come back in here, hold on, this is how they said things. Me being always interested in how people interact and behave, I was like, yo, like this is how we talked about stuff over there, and then this is how we talk about things here. It's interesting.
Two different worlds.
But just like seeing the distinguishing difference, that what made people happy, fulfilled, what brought out the inner selves. You just see two different worlds that's like from different values, and I'm always thinking like I bet there could be so much more if we just allowed more perspectives to fill in, and that's kind of, in a way, you're kind of like fulfilling that bridge out right now. The fact about like here in Ventura County, it's very limited. I'm glad that you're bringing that space aboard and that energy, especially with your connection now. But other than that, I'm curious. Is there anything that you might have thought about that was like just you want bring out to the podcast?
Yeah, well, just next moves. It's funny because I was out last night for my boyfriend's birthday, and it's like everything, even when I'm out, it's their business moves. Like I look at everything now as a business.
I thought I was the only one.
I was going around Ventura, downtown Ventura. One of the guys that worked at the venue was, he's heavily plugged into a lot of these businesses, and he was telling me like, hey, do you ever want to perform out here, if you ever want to get a group of girls? And he was introducing me to the owners of these venues, and I'm like, wow, it really is who you know. Like, just these connections that were being made because of Strut on Struts. It's just such a blessing. So we have had the opportunity to perform. Like last year, we had a few performances. It was the most amazing experience. A lot of hard work goes into putting performance together, and it's a great way to showcase your brand, so that's coming up. Definitely a few more performances, and I do have more guest choreographers coming out. I haven't officially announced that yet because I like to surprise everybody.
Everybody can take a look at that.
But it's gonna be this next one that's coming that I just booked. It's so crazy to know you're booking these people that are like famous on Instagram. It's like, wait, I'm like doing this. I just like, I trip out because I just really didn't know that you don't know you could do these things sometimes until you just make it happen. And you're like,
yeah.
did I just do it? Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I feel the same way too when I'm like putting people together. I'm just like, whoa, am I really doing
Yes, you're doing it, Charles. You're doing it. So exciting things are coming next month. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Another thing I definitely have been working on and getting asked a lot about is merch. I dropped like a first little merch line with sweatshirts and shirts and of Strut Don't Stress, and it sold out so fast. Wow. Oh my God, I was so excited. I didn't even get a sweatshirt for myself because I literally sold the last one, and I'm like, that's awesome. It's a lot of work. Like I want to just shout out young entrepreneurs, launching their own clothing lines or their own brands. I'm like, this is a lot of work. Absolutely. And you don't see the behind the scenes that goes into it, and it takes time, it takes sacrifice. And that's what I'm realizing. Like, you want to do all these things, but slowly, I'm working on getting a dream team. That's what I want for 2020 is just, you're as strong as your team.
Yeah, that's true. Well, then again, you're the core foundation of that team, It comes down to how you hold your team
Nobody's going to care about your baby as much as you.
Exactly.
So, we're working on it.
Well, we're looking forward from it. Anything else that you might have, you want to mention? Maybe your plans or... Well, actually, I'm actually curious. What does Strut Don't Stress look like in like a couple of years from now?
Ooh, that's a big question. My biggest dream, and I'm going to put this out into the universe and speak it into existence, is we're going to go on tour. Oh. We're going to go on a world tour. That has always been my dream, to tour the world through dance. Just getting to access people beyond our city, beyond our community. Like, I want my platform to expand to different countries, different, and I want this avenue to be through dancing, when I go on vacations, it's a blessing to go travel and lay on the beach, but I always wanted to be elsewhere working, dancing, like, having that as like a business to like finance your way to another country, and you're getting to do what you love. You get to touch people like that only see you again through the screen when you're in front of them. So that's definitely going to happen. We are going to go on a world tour. I don't know how it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I don't know how.
Can I just mention how great of a marketing opportunity that is for the brand as well?
Oh my God,
man.
Yes.
Like to be able
to say it started in Oxnard. That's what I'm so proud of. I'm like, you guys, it started here, and I'm gonna bring it back here. It will always be brought back here, but we're gonna go far beyond Oxnard.
It's great because like you're a great representative of the city itself, and and I always think about that, like people who I'm working with around here, like dude, like you are the catalyst for someone who like something so small.
Don't sleep on Oxnard, guys. I know, we're on the mat. We're doing it out here, okay?
Exactly.
Anderson Park knows.
There we go. All right, so anybody else that's listening, you're met people who like to dance with you, or anybody in the future, what do you want to say to them? Or maybe your family members, your boyfriend.
I love all of you guys. Thank you so much. Again, I say, like, I wouldn't be able to do this without social media. Like, social media has its perks, and of course it has its negative sides, but like I'm so grateful that I have so much support through social media. Like every time they even comment or share or like or just there, I have started this all on social media. So I just want to shout out to everyone that supported, came to class, or you've come to class, watch our videos. Like, I really, really love you, and it means so much. You have helped the brand grow into what it is. If you do want to dance with us, but you're too scared, because I get those messages, I'm scared, I'm not sexy, I don't want to put on a heel, just please come out every Wednesday night. We're at Fusion Fitness in Oxnard, and all the info's on our Instagram at Strut Don't Stress. Follow us, hashtag us. Our next class that's coming up is actually a Valentine's special. We're having a bring bae to class day, so they get to bring their date. It's optional. Some people might have a date, and that's totally fine. I'm all about self-love. That's the most important love. But that's coming this Wednesday, February 12th at 7:30 at Fusion Fitness. You can find all the info on our website, strutdon'tstress.com. Cool. I'll make sure. I'll try to upload this as fast as I can before that. All right, awesome, guys. Thanks again for listening to On The Go Voice podcast. I think I'll include this as part of the Express Creativity series, because we kind of talked a little bit about it. Sorry. So awesome. But she was supposed to be initially. Happy Black History Month. Yes, and happy Black History Month, everybody. For everybody listening, again, thanks again for tuning in. Please subscribe, follow, like, share, whatever it is. Please support the platform. I would definitely appreciate it. I'm looking to expanding it and see how I can provide value for you guys.
But other than that, thanks again. Hope you have a great rest of your February.